Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, got some news here for you that I thought I would share, and I found this on Reddit. A friend sent it to me, so thank you very much for sending this over. And it says BitGo filed to become a national bank like Ripple Labs. So I'm sure you guys have heard the news in terms of Ripple. They had applied for a banking license along with Circle, but it wasn't just Ripple and Circle who had actually applied for these banking licenses. Apparently there was actually 6 companies that applied for them, and BitGo was also one of them. Quite surprised that this didn't really get as much like coverage, and I get that Ripple is a bigger company generally speaking, but you know, I didn't really see anything about this. Just looking in general, like, you know, over X and, you know, that kind of thing. I didn't really see this. So quite surprised it didn't really get that much coverage. But this is a big deal, right? This is clearly a big deal. So BitGo are actually a part of the Hedera Council. So straight away, they're people who are working with Hedera. Let's get a bit of a breakdown of BitGo just so you can get a bit more of a clear understanding of what they do. I have covered them before, so you might be familiar with the name of BitGo, but I'll just give you a quick breakdown and summation here of what they do. Okay, BitGo is a leading digital asset platform providing institutional grade security and regulated custody solutions. As the first multi-signature Bitcoin wallet provider, they now offer comprehensive services including custody, trading, staking, and settlement across multiple networks. Their regulated infrastructure serves clients from fintech startups to traditional financial institutions worldwide. So when you kind of hear what they do, it sounds quite fitting that they've applied for a banking license, right? Like, it does sound like they're basically like a crypto financial company providing bank-like services, you know, like custody, staking, etc. Like, if you think about just having like a, you know, like a standard savings account, you know, that kind of thing. So they're clearly doing that kind of service already. So, you know, once again, I think this is going to get approved. I do think eventually all these licenses will get approved. I did cover this, you know, not long ago, where the banks had all come together asking for these licenses to basically be put on hold before they actually give a decision. And I said basically the reason why this was done is because this is exactly what the banks have been worried about. This is what the banks are fearing. This is exactly what they were worried about, and it's competition, right? What you got to understand right now is, with all the banks that are out there, that they've kind of got a common ground and common understanding, right? So like, while they will like compete, they're not going to try and outdo each other to too much of a degree where they all have to start like greatly reducing their rates or anything like that. So if you just think, for example, okay, like an interest rate on a savings account that you'll get, you know, you're not going to get a bank that will come out and do like a ridiculously higher interest rate than all the other banks, because it's like, hey, you know, like, make it competitive, but, you know, don't try and really outdo us, because like, it's just going to mess us all up, right? Like, we're all going to be in trouble then, because we're going to have to like compete with each other, keep, you know, rising the rates, and it'll get to a ridiculous point where we're not even really making a profit anymore or something like that. So there's like a common ground and a common understanding that goes on at the moment within these, you know, with these banks and whatnot. And so when you know, think about what's going to happen here in regards to, you know, this situation with like BitGo getting a banking license and stuff, it's a whole different ball game now, because one, it means that the banks have got to step up their game to get into crypto and hurry up their, you know, offering of crypto services. But it also means that the banks have got to try and compete in a way in terms of, you know, what they offer in terms of rates and stuff, right? Because you may have like these banks now, these new crypto banks that come out, they might be offering really good rates for like staking, for example. You know, they might say, okay, you know, stake your, you know, HBAR with us or whatever, or your XRP or your Ethereum, etc. with us. And, you know, that they might give you really, you know, really good rates, where the banks are like, we don't want to give that kind of rate, but they're going to have to, right? Because it's either that or lose customers. And as crypto gets more and more adopted, and this is one thing I will say, like, people still don't understand this, like, at the end of the day, we are still very new into this space, and a lot of people still don't understand about crypto. You know, when you like watch all these videos and content, yes, it seems like you're in that bubble. Like, how do people not know about crypto? But if you zoom out and used to find out like a percentage of how much of the world are actually utilizing or investing or holding crypto, it's very insignificant in comparison, right? And so when people do really start to understand like the benefits of what crypto can do, and like even just the better rates that you can have for holding these cryptos, yeah, they're going to want to get involved, and they're going to want to maybe move out of banks, right? Even from the decentralization aspect, they're going to think, well, why hold my money in a bank and worry about what the bank are telling me what to do, or how I can withdraw my money, or when I have access to my money, when I could just go to, a decentralized network and keep my money in that way. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that, everyone will move away from banks, and I don't think banks will become completely obsolete. I don't really see that happening. But I do think they could lose some of their relevance, and I think this is what banks have been worried about, because they've had such a strong foothold within the finance industry for so many years, like decades. And this is where, they really have now got to start to look at things of like, evolve or be extinct, right? Like, they've really got to start to pivot and say, okay, while this doesn't necessarily mean we'll be gone forever, but it could really affect our bottom line. We could really lose a lot of customers. We could lose a lot of, a lot of potential business, because, even for an example, like a loan, right? If they're not giving great rates, or they're being difficult in terms of how they give, loans and stuff like that, like the hurdles, why wouldn't they just go through a decentralized network? Like, for example, like Bonzo Finance. Why wouldn't just get a loan through a company like that instead? Right? Completely decentralized. So there's going to be other avenues now. And so don't get me wrong. I'll say this now, no matter how much the banks want to fight it, they are going to lose customers. That's just going to happen, 100%. But for them, it's minimizing the damage as much as possible. So I completely understand why they've tried to come together to try and halt this. It is going to happen. It's one of those things now. The cat's out of the bag. Like, that's it now. There's no stopping it at this point. The most they can do is delay. And that's why in the letter that they wrote, it wasn't to stop it altogether. It was to delay it, right? Because they know they can't just stop it, but they're just trying to delay it for as long as possible. And so, I think this is great news to see. As I say, BitGo are members of the Hedera Council, so they do work with Hedera. So, if they do get this banking license, it's the things that they could do as an incentive in regards to HBAR. Like, could it be a thing of, hey, use our bank and we'll give you, for example, like, use our debit card and we'll give you cash back in HBAR or something like that, that kind of thing. Could it just be staking rewards in HBAR? There's numerous things that we could be thinking of here, right? So there's a lot of potential here. And the fact that, BitGo work with Hedera anyway, they utilize Hedera, it's all just utility. These are all just added things. So when you think about how Ripple obviously looking for their banking license, how I've said in some way, shape or form, they would want it to, benefit XRP. Now, I will be honest, like Ripple have got more of an incentive because they hold so much of the XRP in their escrow, whereas obviously BitGo don't hold as much HBAR. So it's not quite the same. But still, it's still something that could benefit them. It's still something that can benefit the ecosystem. It still could be a platform that they want to use. So they want to make it more valuable and attractive to ensure their longevity, and to add liquidity, right, to the network. So I still think there's definitely incentives here for them to do things like this. And they're on Hedera Council. So again, they are trying to add to its future, right, and its sustainability. So all that is still there. I really do think this could be massive. We'll look, and see how things go in the future. I'll keep an eye on it 100%. But yeah, like this is definitely the thing that the banks have been fearing all this time. Like when crypto first came out, I think the potential was clear. And I think this is exactly what they've been worried about. This is why I've said to you before, like banks do fear crypto. They really do, because crypto it's leveling the playing field now, right? And so again, I don't think banks will just go completely irrelevant and just, get wiped out, because I think that would be like devastating, because banks do fractionalized banking, which is, I think if you used to try and do a bank run and a bank, like everybody tried to withdraw their money, you'd be in a big problem. You'd be in a very big problem. So I don't think the banks will be completely wiped out, but yeah, does this mean that the banks are not going to have the same kind of stronghold that they've had on the financial industry for as long as they've had now? Is it a thing where they're going to have to start making way for like crypto companies coming in and getting a piece of their pie, basically moving in and getting some of their profits? Yeah, I think that's what's going to inevitably happen, and that's why they don't like it, right? That's exactly what they've been worried about. So I think that is inevitable, though. And, you know, I've said it before, I'm all for competition, because this is what makes the banks now have to act, right? Like, they can't all just be doing what they want to do anymore. They will have to compete if they want to keep the customers. So yeah, they are going to have to pull their fingers out and make an effort now. Because if you've got these banks who are offering way better, you know, attractive rates for loans or staking or custody, etc., the banks are going to have to compete with that to try and keep customers. Otherwise, they'll just go to the better, you know, the more attractive company, the more attractive bank. So, you know, I think this is what drives competition. I think that's healthy. And I think it helps, again, level the playing field. It'll make things a bit more fairer. So we'll get more appealing offers, you know, for our assets and things like that. But yeah, this whole stuff with crypto banks coming, like, it's just showing you where crypto is going as a whole. We're getting to that point now where, you know, the mainstream adoption is coming. It's on its way, and this is proof of that. So it's all coming together very nicely, and this is real great news to see, and I'll keep you updated on anything I get further on this. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.